Okay, I will kick off. So thank you everybody for joining us. This is a very exciting roundtable and it is accelerating inclusion in recruitment. But before we begin, we'll have to start off with the boring stuff. So I will pass you to Michael to discuss housekeeping.
Hi everyone, thank you Ross. Yes, before we get started, I want to make sure everyone can hear us and see us. So everyone is muted to avoid any background noise, so we don't have to worry about that. To enable live caption, please click on the live transcript button at the bottom of the Zoom screen and then show subtitles. Questions to be asked can be done by the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom screen or in the chat. And then at the end, we can gather these up and we can have a little panel sort of question time. If you do have any technical problems or have trouble hearing us, please drop us a message and the team will be able to help you as best we can. This webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube and emailed out to everyone. So if you do have to go anywhere, please don't worry. You can jump back on and hear it at a later time.
Perfect. Right. Thank you very much, Michael. That wasn't boring, so well done. So I'll start off with introductions. I shall start with myself. I'm Ross Linnett. I am the founder and CEO of Recite, and I will pass it now to Charlie.
Hello, I'm Charlie Cruickshanks. I'm the talent acquisition partner for KFC. I'm also one of our co-leads for one of KFC's Community of Belonging scene. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. And we'll do a quick segue to Natalie.
Hiya, so I'm Natalie. I'm also from KFC. I'm a designer in the development team, but I'm also a co-lead along with Charlie for our Community of Belonging scene.
Excellent. And then we move on to Lucy.
Hi everyone, I'm Lucy. I'm the Group Managing Director at McGregor Boyall. We're a recruitment agency that support lots of different sectors, technology, marketing, HR. And I've also got a background in career management, and before being MD at McGregor Boyall, I was also Group People Director, so I have a strong people management background too.
Excellent, thank you. And last but not least, Becky.
Thank you very much. So my name's Becky Webber. I'm the operations director at Tate Recruitment, which is a UK-based staffing organisation. I'm also the ED&I lead for Tate Recruitment, and I also, in my spare time, support many candidates through my website, Positive Career Advice. So I support lots of people with barriers to employment, as well as people that don't have barriers to employment. Thank you.
And a brilliant website it is too. So one of the things that I would like to start off with is I just want to set the scene before we jump into questions and the discussions. And we'll start off by a poll. So when searching for a job, how many extra jobs do disabled people have to apply for compared to non-disabled people to be successful in getting that job as a percentage? Audience, place your votes now, please. Right, very good. 2/3 of you got the answer correct. It's actually 60%, but one of the things that I want to highlight through today is a lot of the time it isn't the fact that a person with disabilities hasn't got the skills to do the job. It's more about how society judges people with disabilities, and therefore they are at a disadvantage from the early stage. And a lot of the work by this fantastic panel is changing this through positive action and many other initiatives. And we shall explore this by asking questions. So I will jump into my first question, and that will be to Lucy. So Lucy, why is inclusive hiring important to recruitment companies?
Sure, thanks a lot, Ross. I mean, inclusive hiring is important for several reasons. And I think, look, number one, agencies are a huge gateway into our talent pools. We're responsible for connecting candidates with clients and clients with candidates. So we've kind of got a big responsibility on our shoulders with this to help facilitate inclusive recruitment practices and inclusive hiring. Reasons for this are because by doing that, we can attract, a much more diverse talent pool, both for our clients, but it also leads to a much broader range of skills and expertise and untapped talent into the workforce. It also brings added things, agencies, by doing that, we're also helping, raise cultural awareness and raise awareness of certain disabilities or certain issues. That just helps positively make more inclusive work environments. Key things are using inclusive recruitment practices. We can reach to deeper talent pools through some of the ways in which we're able to, I guess, mine now and reach out to deeper pools, and finding good and the right skill sets that maybe wouldn't have been brought to clients' attentions before, regardless of people's backgrounds. I think for agencies, like embracing inclusive recruitment practices, it also helps reduce that bias and that discrimination in the recruitment process. It's important because agencies are the first point of contact with candidates, and therefore the way that we attract, the way that we screen, and how we interview our candidates can have a real impact. We know that just the minor little adjustments to recruitment processes can really influence numbers of candidates applying and their success throughout that recruitment process and the career opportunities they get submitted for. I also think it's important for our clients as well. We also, as much as we're the connector to the candidates, we're there to help our clients too. And they need to know that we're doing recruitment responsibly. So being knowledgeable and being able to, I guess, share our experience with our clients is key. We play a key role in partnering with our clients to ensure that we're helping advise them and making adjustments for candidates in the process, highlighting this information to them, tweaks on job specs for appropriate wording, looking at the test processes. Sometimes with certain occupations like technology, we do a lot of work in that area. A lot of our candidates are having to go actually through technical tests, and certain neurological conditions, etc., might not necessarily be able to go through the right test. So it's about us being able to advise our clients on those candidates and the kind of adjustments they can make. And it's all about maximising that meeting and making sure that we're there to maximise the potential of the candidates that they meet. So I hope that gives a little bit of insight.
No, it definitely does give a lot of insight. And you just touched on something that kind of affected and happened in my life, that I was actually headhunted by a recruitment agency for Marks and Spencer's many, many years ago. I was president of the student union at the time, and they specifically used to headhunt from the student union environment. They flew me from London to Edinburgh to do the exam and the interview, but it wasn't an interview in the end. It was assessment centres. And the reason I was recruited is because I had worked for Marks and Spencer's, and they had said they would like myself to go into management. And I was open to the idea, but guess what happened? They had, at the time, I mean, this is many years ago, this is 20 years ago, they didn't have any sort of policies around these areas, and I didn't get past the assessment censor tests, even though they wanted me. So it's fantastic to see that if this was to happen now, and it was to happen through yourself, that the fact that I'm dyslexic would be spotted and there'd be adjustment for it. So it is great to see, and it's very heartwarming as well.
Definitely. I mean, it's things like that, Ross, around, just like simple, like 2 screens provided to be able to move information around to make that more visible or presented to that particular candidate. The little things can make such a big difference.
Massive. Absolutely. And it's great to see. And Charlie, if we can pass almost the identical question to you with regards to inclusive recruitment, but in-house.
Yeah, I think I echo so much what was said. I think inclusive hiring is so important in-house as well as within agencies, but actually having a really diverse workforce in every business is so important. We've all had different walks of life, we've all experienced different things, and to be able to share those ideas and share that thinking, so that really shapes the business growth and the business strategy. At KFC, we have over 1,000 plus restaurants, and overall they are mainly quite diverse. But we're still looking at ways to improve our processes to be more inclusive in our recruitment. So it could be looking at decoding job descriptions to make sure there's no gender bias, looking at, how do we, encourage people to apply for our roles by making video job descriptions so that people can really see what it's like working in our restaurants and make conscious choices to come and join us. But also, from obviously things like tools like Recite, we're able to really support our neurodiverse community and being able to support those candidates being able to apply for jobs. In our head office, so we have a restaurant support centre. We also are really passionate about our blind recruitment process. So making sure that we're shortlisting all of our CVs. We are even at phone screen interview stage. We're looking at that blinding of any kind of bias potential. So our hiring managers are only hiring on skill set rather than looking at any other information on that individual. And we're not perfect, but we continue to look at ways to really improve our processes, to be more inclusive and be more diverse, to shape our business and be a better employer.
Absolutely. And I pick up on one of the words that you said was diversity. And it always brings me back to, the diversity of skill set can often is much wider when you include people with disabilities. And I always remember I presented Recite to an organization, which I'll not name because I don't want to I don't want to feel like I'm throwing names under the bus. And when the person finished, he said, this is my second life. I'm semi-retired now, but I used to work for Apple. And one of the things that we used to do was that we had to exclude people with dyslexia from the focus groups, because the people with dyslexia would figure out what the focus group was trying to achieve, and you couldn't get an independent sort of assessment from them. And it's just to highlight, if that's the case, and it's one of the world's biggest company had that policy to recognize that people with dyslexia were potentially ahead of the group, then surely the hiring strategies of a lot of companies can be based around the fact that people with disabilities might come with advantages that are not seen in atypical people. And that's a perception thing. And that's a fight that we all have to do, and we all have to try to, promote the advantages of hiring people from a diverse background, not just the disadvantages that already seem to be embedded into companies.
I so echo that, Ross. There's so many people that we're looking at diversity and thinking about things people can't do and the traits that maybe they struggle at, rather than thinking of flipping at what a great advantage that individual could be to our organisation, our business, and what are the amazing traits that they have that they could spearhead and change what we do in the way that we do things.
Absolutely. And I did say I wouldn't mention another company, but I did mention Apple, so I can't even stick to my own plan. So moving swiftly on, Becky, I was just wondering if you could take us through, what you do to break down barriers for specific clients.
Yeah. Yeah, no worries at all. So breaking down barriers for candidates is sort of the core mission of Tate. And a couple of years ago, we made a commitment to be disability confident, and we're still very much on that journey. And every level of that journey is very important for us to embed appropriate practices and seriously embed them, rather than tick a box just to say we are level 1, 2, or in a leadership capacity. So they're all embedded properly. That takes patience, commitment, continuous effort, and evolution as well. So some of the initial steps we've taken are to collaborate with technology, with tools such as Recite, as you are aware, which has been instrumental in supporting visitors, both candidates or applicants and employers, with various accessibility needs to navigate our website. We also use a technology called Hinterview, which is a video interviewing platform, and that's to enable applicants to choose how they would like to best present themselves. I know through all of the work that we do, or I've done with Positive Career Advice on the candidate side, how challenging it is to be the best job seeker, even though you may be an amazing worker. We want to be often on and off the job market as quickly as possible. It is not always the most pleasurable experiences, and so creating a CV and relying solely on that isn't often enough. So we give our applicants the opportunity to showcase their experience and themselves through a video platform, and it's driven more from their decision rather than a client decision, and that helps to level the playing field, and that's articulated to our clients in the most professional and right way to help educate them as well. We also use Broadbean, which is a platform that many people use, and part of Broadbean educates us on gender inclusive language as well. So we obviously can correct the language that we use within our adverts to make sure as it's inclusive as possible. In terms of promoting diversity and inclusivity right from the start, which is incredibly important of the hiring journey, we make sure that all of our adverts, like many of my co-panelists have said, have an inclusion statement on on the adverts to make sure that people from whatever or whoever faces any barriers feels comfortable to apply. And it's about creating that sort of psychological safety of applying, which is incredibly important. And the reasonable adjustments or creating accessible interview accommodations is an ongoing process. So we make sure that our interview process is fair and accessible as possible. However, that comes with ongoing training and support and knowledge. So we do train our staff to better understand how to approach those situations, but we've also have additional external training planned in October for our staff on neurodiversity, and also for our customers as well to support them. Because as we know, when people ask for a reasonable adjustment, it's not just the applicant, but it's also making sure that the interviewer is as comfortable with the whole process. And we, you know, as Lucy said, we are the central point of making sure that, you know, we play a very important role in making sure that both parties feel comfortable. The training we offer is through people with lived experience as well. So they're talking knowledgeably about their own situation. And through our ED&I group, our disability team are mentored through a gentleman called Stephen Salmon, who is disabled, physically disabled. So he can talk about real life experience. And obviously the training we're having is with Stephen Ingram for Neurodiversity Together. So he's neurodiverse himself. So we really research the people that we have to deliver the right training to make sure that it's as valuable and helpful as possible. And that's externally. And obviously what we do is we accommodate our clients' specific requests as well, because you have to tailor your hiring approach. We are representing obviously our applicants, but we're also representing our employers, and we want to make sure that we are echoing their ED&I message as well, and we're amplifying that message to make sure they get as many people applying as possible and educating them on the way as well. Internally, within our organisation, we offer guaranteed interviews for people that meet the minimum criteria for people with disabilities, so that we can break down those barriers and also boost candidates' confidence to apply, which is so important because we're missing out on great opportunities if we don't do that. And through Tate, we offer hybrid working and flexible working. And that we've realised that sort of underpins creating inclusion for all, because obviously we can accommodate many different requests, no matter what they are, whether it's disability related or another sort of request that's required as well. And from a personal perspective, it's a very much an ongoing journey. I and my colleagues within our ED&I team, which we call Unify, we reach out to organisations and volunteer. So, for example, at the moment, I'm volunteering with the Prince's Trust, and I'm an employability and progression mentor, and I'm currently mentoring someone who is autistic to support him, a young gentleman with his next stage of life. And you can never learn that from reading a book. You can't read that from an article. It's about really understanding through the lens of experience what that's like, so that we can then learn from that to support our journey. And it's constantly evolving, and we're constantly learning. We're always on day one. That's the way I look at it. Never be complacent. Never think you know it all, because you don't. It's always
Every day's a school day, right?
Yeah, certainly is.
Well, I didn't do that well at school because I was dyslexic and I didn't realise, but that's a neat point. One of the things I picked up there, and I think it's fantastic, is that when they meet the minimum criteria, they're guaranteed an interview.
Yes.
And I don't have the statistics to hand, but I know as soon as you put on an application form that you have a disability, that your chances of your application being rejected shoots up. And if you don't mention it, you're much more likely to reach the interview. So by guaranteeing interview based on a minimum standard, that's giving people the confidence to try and be open about themselves, particularly where disabilities is concerned. So it's initiatives like that make this, it seems like a small initiative, but the impact is so huge.
It's massive. And many of our clients have started to do it as well, which is great. So we can really sort of promote that within our attraction campaigns for them. And it is about making sure that people feel comfortable to apply. I mean, we're missing out on an amazing talent pool, as we know, in a candidate depleted market, which is worsening and worsening. we've got to think differently, and we've got to change perspectives. And hopefully this session that we're running today will certainly do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the next, right, try and find where I'm at. Lucy, do you have any examples of when you've supported a candidate with additional needs?
Yeah, sure. And I think, look, just talking about what Becky said there, this leads into this issue around kind of where we have supported. But that comfortable piece, feeling comfortable to apply, also then comes through to, when you're supporting candidates with specific needs, at what point do you find that information out? This issue of disclosing, I think, specific needs and then being able to support your candidates through is an interesting one, because every recruitment agency, I'm sure, has, or I would hope has, some kind of forms that people can fill in around diversity or needs, etc. But not everybody. It's not, these things are not necessarily mandatory. You would never make that, and not everybody feels comfortable with that initial integration with an agency to be open about their needs. So a lot of this also comes down to the skills that we have to have as recruiters around that advisory bit, and the education that we give to our consultants around talking and encouraging this openness issue, so that people do feel comfortable with being able to talk to a consultant at that point around, you've applied, but these are the kind of things I might need. So we do a lot of educating, I think, around consultants to ensure that they also feel comfortable and knowledgeable being able to talk and ask these questions. And when it comes to real examples, here's two or three. So I come back to the point that Ross, you were talking about earlier about dyslexia, etc. And we've had candidates where they are going in to do regular tests, or they're getting their CV submitted, they're being, going through to interview process, but actually ensuring that when they get through to the testing element, we've got examples where we've supported candidates by talking to our clients, making sure that they are supplied 2 screens for interview tests so that they can move the information around. We have made sure that they're applying different types of the simple things, the way that a test can be written and the language used in the way that questions are answered do not always get interpreted the same way. So ensuring up front any particular needs a candidate might have, and having the test just reworded in a more transparent and clear way to put that information. So these are some of the things we've supported on around that more, I guess, neurodiversity issue. But we've had so in the last, since COVID, I've also had somebody who had hearing issues, and that came up during the process because we were interviewing the candidate and we had to make our own amendments around helping that particular person. And it's things that we've supported the client around, realizing that you can have all the technology you want, but to lip read, you really need to have a white background before, no glass behind you. That makes the interpreter so much harder. So again, it's advising, we've been advising our clients on these types of things, and specific where we're using products like Teams and other technology, having the right kind of telephone technology or the right communication technology for people to be able to clearly understand what's being said. We've also in the last 12 months placed somebody who was using a wheelchair and was in a wheelchair consistently, and had to make reasonable adjustments around simple things like getting access into a building, which in this day and age you think would be quite simple, but not everybody, and trying to do an interview on the 4th floor with a candidate who's got a wheelchair is probably not the right thing. So it's about making sure that they know up front as well these things, and can find the right, can use the right entry door. And this person ended up having to go sort of slightly around a side door to make sure it was much easier. And again, it's about making, if you do have any form of special needs required, it's our job to make that candidate feel as comfortable as possible and not different when they're entering into that recruitment process or that interview, so that they're able to feel not nervous and perform the best way that they can. But there's just some small examples in there of how we've helped clients.
It's fantastic examples, and the aim is to try and normalize this across the board, so it's just something that people do. It's part of the course. But thank you very much for that. And the last question goes to Natalie, certainly not the least, because this is very, very interesting what you guys are doing at KFC. Natalie, could you please tell us a bit about how you extend inclusion inside the workplace with your neurodiversity network, and why you in particular are very passionate about it?
Yes, yeah, of course. So at KFC, we've got 5 communities of belonging, one of which is Seen, which myself, Charlie, and our colleague Emma are co-leads of. And we're hugely passionate about it. My personal experience is my brother's got autism and severe learning difficulties. Charlie's dyslexic, and so is Emma. So we all have very personal interests in making sure that KFC is as inclusive as possible and that we can do all we can. So Seen is all about giving neurodiverse people the spotlight and making sure that they're seen, essentially, and celebrating their superpowers, as well as supporting them with any challenges that they have. So we aim to educate in our business through storytelling, workshops, and then make big or small changes within the organisation that helps our neurodiverse community. And one of which being getting Recite Me on board, which we are thrilled about. And it's
Thank you very much.
it's been it's been something we've been pushing for a long time, and we're so glad that we've got it on our recruitment page. So that's great.
Great award, guys.
Yes. It's amazing, really, that it's understood that 1 in 7 people in the UK are understood to have a neurodiversity, which is a huge number when you think about it. And we believe it's even higher in the food and beverage industry. These people in the neurodiverse community have a huge amount of skills and unique talents, and they're a great asset to our business. And every talk that we have where we have a professional or a charity come in to talk about, say, autism or ADHD, the thing that they talk about the most is the skill levels that that people with neurodiversity have, and it's just amazing. KFC also have a Hatch employability program, which is helping young people get into work, so offering workshops and paid work experience. And on the back of that, we offer training to our managers as well to help the young people who may have neurodiversity to start their career at KFC. So we've got a few things going on. We're still quite early on in our journey. Seen was only set up last year, but we've got big plans. And as a group within KFC, we're really excited to make these changes.
It sounds very, very exciting. And as I said before, the key for me is normalizing. What you're doing work is fantastic, but the key is how many people, how many organizations can we normalize this about across society? So it's great to see you guys innovating and pushing the envelope forward. So well done. So that is the end of the questions. That is the end of the grilling. Now I'll pass over to Michael to facilitate any audience questions for all of ourselves. So feel free to ask me questions as well, audience.
Well, thank you very much. That was fantastic. Yeah, so I think before we get on to some takeaways where hopefully the audience can take something in action straight away, we'd like to get some questions. So everyone, please, if you don't mind, can we get your questions in the webinar chat or via the Q&A button? And once a few of these populate, I can fire away and ask our panelists. Okay. So what are the biggest challenges organizations face in implementing inclusive neurodiverse strategies?
Who wants to take the mantle of that question first?
What are the challenges when we're trying to do all these great things? What seems to be the barrier? What stops us doing the right thing?
I can start if you like, and then someone can pip in.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking from personal experience. I think it's ignorance, just not understanding neurodiversity or neurodiverse conditions and appreciating that everyone is individual. And so you might sit there and go, I understand what autism is, or ADHD, which I think is probably being called something else now, but everything's changing, Asperger's, whatever. But you could have a candidate or an applicant could have a combination of different you could have 2 or 3 of those conditions, but on varying levels of the spectrum. So I think, it can feel overwhelming. I think. And that I'm just speaking from experience, which is why I reached out to the Prince's Trust and became a mentor, because initially when I was starting to read up on it, I was like, oh my goodness me, where on earth can we start? So I think the first thing is just to get started by increasing your knowledge and education. And it's a marathon, not a sprint, and not to put too much pressure on yourself to know everything and to implement everything overnight. It can be done really, really well if you do it gradually through gathering information and knowledge and sharing that knowledge with others. And through that helps with things like accommodations or reasonable adjustments. Sharing success stories is amazing. Lived experience. We do lots of videos and internal videos and interviews with our staff to share their personal journey to educate people. And obviously that has to be built on the foundations of psychological safety for people to feel open enough to do that. I mean, in terms of implementation, it's a gradual process for us at Tate, and we're learning very much from our clients as well. But I guess that the poignant thing for us is obviously having Recite Me on our website, the same as everybody else. You're getting a good old plug here because it's fabulous. You're very welcome.
They're not on the payroll. I'm not slipping them a fiver to promote us.
But it's also supporting and educating ourselves and our customers, and working with our applicants to make sure there's a level playing field and every person's individual. But just get started, just reach out, ask questions, be curious. I'm sure there's other things that other people will add to that, but I just thought I'd just add that bit to begin with.
Thank you very much, Becky. I think we've got
Sorry,
apologies.
No, I was going to say, just happy
Sorry,
to
Lucy.
add to that, Becky. And I think one of the things I think, and I mentioned this when I was talking about, how have we supported candidates with specific needs, but this whole issue around understanding it enough to ask the right questions as well. One of the biggest challenges is, if we go back years ago, some of the things we talk about very openly now weren't necessarily being talked about. We're now in a different day and age and culture where it's acceptable to. But what we've got to do is make sure that we continue on that journey, because the challenge is still there. I still feel that there is an element, this is more from an agency perspective, but I feel that part that we start integrating and talking to our candidates and making sure that they feel comfortable disclosing, and at what point they do disclose, that is, I think, one of the challenges, because I think sometimes candidates just accept that what they're going through is something they've just got to go through, rather than talking to the agency and being open about things that maybe could help them be successful in their career. And so it's on us to train, to educate. And I think part of overcoming some of these obstacles is about, as an organization, you tackling that by having your own strategy around how you're going to educate, for us, our consultants, and make them feel comfortable with the right questioning, but also the way you portray yourself as an organization. And again, we've all touched upon this today, but you've got to feel approachable, that people feel that they can engage and share that information with you. And I still feel that is one of the key barriers to overcome.
Yeah, and I'd just add to that, exactly. We are, as a society, we are fighting the lack of education that we had from school around this subject. And I keep thinking, the amount of times we spent on trigonometry and algebra, which I don't think many people use in their lives, but I still think it's important. But if they just dedicated 1% of their time to, disability awareness and the advantages potentially of not being neurotypical, or the advantages of having disabilities, it would be a much more of an easier process. But now within organizations, it's getting around the ignorance that we all naturally have as a society to, people with disabilities and the advantages that might bring. There's a second point as well, that we sometimes, we've become more open as a society, but we've become very, very wary of offending people as well. That's a phenomenon that's happened in the last 10 years, bit of a difference. And we've got to make it open for people to make mistakes around people with disabilities, because sometimes people get very worried about asking the right questions in fear of offending them, and it'd be much better for people with disabilities, from my experiences, to ask, look, if you've got these neurodivergent traits, for example, what's the best way to deal with you? How do I manage you? How do I work with you? And making sure there's an open there's an open table to discuss these things without fear of offending somebody. I think that's an important step.
A few more questions. I'm going to try and do 2 in 1 here. It's around about management and stakeholders and buy-in. So how do we approach stakeholders management to get on board with D&I strategies and internal initiatives like you have done at KFC? How do we sort of manage up and get buy-in?
I take that one. Essentially it's about communication. So we have a D&I team, not only here in the UK, but globally, and really making that strategy part of the overarching business strategy and embedding it in our culture. I think from a stakeholder perspective, not only is that talked about openly and we are all as a business driving towards it, but each of our communities of belonging have members of our leadership team on them so that they know what we're going after as a community of belonging. They know what we're trying to achieve, and they're very much influencing that. And even very soon, we are going to be putting, the overarching goals that we have down to every single person that works in our ICR head office to try and really influence their journey over 2024 and what that looks like for them as an individual and how they're going to give back. So trying to look at it as a whole business around how we all can get involved in our DE&I strategy and how we can add that impact to our business. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm conscious of time. There is a few questions, so I think what we'll do as a team here at Recite, we'll gather these questions, get some answers, and we'll add them to the follow-up document that we can send everyone after this webinar and email, and make sure that nothing gets unanswered for our audience. The next thing is the takeaway. So loads of fantastic conversations and points that I think everyone's already taken, but one that someone could action this week or next week from our panelists, that would be fantastic. I don't want to pick on anyone who wants to volunteer.
Go on, I'll go first. I don't mind. If there's a key takeaway from today, I think for me it would be about perhaps education. Okay, I think it starts from within. Okay, I think there's such a plethora of stuff out there. It's sometimes for people it's confusing to know where to begin. That's the problem. And I think actually you have to look at under your own hood first of all and work out what you want to be and what you're trying to achieve. And sometimes baby steps is better. And I think it starts actually with that practice internally and bringing training and education to your staff or some statement around what it means to you. An example of that would be one of the things I'm quite passionate about is unconscious bias, and the fact that when we're looking at our candidates and we're talking, people should be aware of that to make sure that we eliminate as much as that's possible. So we do unconscious bias. One of the first things we took on board to do several years ago was make sure unconscious bias and diversity was part of our onboarding and induction process. And from there, you get everybody thinking the same and talking, you get talk going, and then you can achieve bigger things.
Very much.
I'm happy to go next if you want.
Perfect. I'll let you
Only because there's a bit of a lead on from what Lucy said there, which is the education part, which probably we might all be saying actually. But again, speaking from experience and having to start from day one, as in not knowing quite where to start at the beginning, which I'm sure we can all relate to, is that you can reach out to organisations that are maybe ahead of where you are currently, to learn from them and their experience. And we've done that not just on disability but on other topics as well. And obviously not all elements are going to be wholly relevant to maybe your culture or your environment, but what we've learned from that, we've been able to implement quickly and also learn from those mistakes as well. And of course, you're building your network, you're widening your knowledge, and just having informational conversations has been incredibly invaluable to us at Tate and our wider organisation as well. So I would wholeheartedly say it all begins, as Lucy said, with education, and then making sure that knowledge is embedded within your business and passed on and not kept just within the four walls of your head, so to speak. So That's what I would add.
I go next. I think there's a bit of a theme here, because I also echo exactly what the other panelists have said. And I think, again, education is key. As part of our scene community, we were looking at our key pillars, and education definitely sits as part of that. And really thinking through, not only through being open and storytelling through your business and making it a safe environment so that your team can openly talk about their challenges, but also talking about the areas that they bring to that business, to the business area, but also creating and signposting your team to different parts of learning. And that could be from podcasts and books or video clips, and any way in which you can really upskill the team so that they know a little bit more about the differences, but specifically really focusing on the positives around neurodiverse community too.
Yeah, and then education as well. I remember something that actually Charlie said to me yesterday about head and the heart. So, like, through storytelling, you engage the heart, and then that allows the head to kind of take action and to do stuff and do stuff with that information. And I think that's really lovely. I think also through education, you get rid of quite a lot of those stereotypes that a lot of people hang on to, like particularly from my situation growing up with my brother with autism. A lot of people have in their minds the Rain Man kind of representation of what autism is, and we know that that's, you know, obviously a characterization, and it's not very based on too much fact really. So it's I think a general sweep of just getting, we get a charity partner in to do our workshops, and they're really, really great. And we do lunch and learns. So there's loads of material out there. And I think it's great to just take advantage of that, really. Once you lay that foundation, then you can start welcoming in people within your business, because you're almost match fit ready, aren't you? If you've got that kind of level of understanding and knowledge. So yeah, that's really what I was going to add on.
Right. Well, I'll go next. First of all, I'd just like to thank Simon for the fantastic signing that he's been doing. So thank you very much, Simon. I would probably say what everybody else says, because it's true, is education is the key. But I think you've always got to be wary of what the end goal is. What does success look like when society gets it to where we want to be? And I always fall back to a conversation of my good friend Mike from Purple Tuesdays, he's got a physical disability. And he said, it would be fantastic when I get to a time where I'm walking through Hyde Park with my wife and they just see a guy, they don't see a guy with disabilities with somebody who's able-bodied. And that's what success looks like for all disabilities, including neurodivergent disabilities, is it just becomes a talking point, because me as a dyslexic will be recognized for the fact that I've got a strong analytical ability, a very good working memory, or some of the people with autism that we employ has a unique ability to focus and concentrate on such a small area that, you know, wouldn't be capable of a neurotypical person, and they apply fantastically to finance. If anybody's ever thinking about hiring somebody with Asperger's, finance is a very, very good area for them to be employed in. So I think we've got to concentrate on the end goal. I think that's my takeaways. Education will take us to this place eventually.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's much appreciated. Hopefully, our audience have taken away some valuable points and some notes, etc., from today's discussion. And I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. And I'll leave the lasting comments to Ross.
Just thank you, guys. It warms me heart that we're in this position from, you know, when I first started this business, when it was officially registered in 2010, most organizations that we approached didn't even have D&I teams and didn't understand what to do. And it fell into either IT or marketing. But seeing all of the initiatives that everybody on this panel is doing, it's helping moving that needle of creating the awareness. And we will get there one of these days. So I'd just like to thank you all for your time, and thank you all for the great work you've done in this community.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.